Ebro in the morning, digging in right now with my guy Rosenberg. And
Holla.
Rosenberg, who's your friend you got with us today? What's going on?
Brian Lemick.
All right.
Is that pronounced your last name right?
Yeah.
Director of Development. That's your title?
Yeah.
At PeacePlayers International. A very cool organization that uses basketball as a tool to bring people together in different situations of conflict.
Brian, what do you mean different? Like you talking about like people, gangbangers, set tripping, like, Crips and Bloods? What are we talking about when you say conflict? What is happening?
Yeah, so right now we operate in
Talking to the mic for me, bro.
Right now we operate in 4 communities internationally. We have core programming in Israel.
Oh, so this isn't a United States thing?
No, not fully, no. But we do some work in the United States.
Okay.
So we have core programming in Northern Ireland, Cyprus, South Africa, and Israel. So if you look at the different parties in Israel is Palestinians and Israelis, so Arabs and Jews.
Yeah.
You look in Northern Ireland, it's Catholics and Protestants, right, or Unionists and Republicans. If you look in South Africa, it's just 15 years or so post-apartheid, 20 years. It's white and black. And then you look in Cyprus, it's Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots.
So you guys your organization is like, listen, we know these conflicts are taking place on a political level, religious, cultural, and you're going in and saying, look, we're trying to make the world a better place through sports.
Yeah. Well, what we've identified is, look, if you think about kids, right, a lot of their thinking is learned, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're 6, 7 years old and you're in South Africa, you're a white South African, you're going to be. It is not uncommon for you to be playing with your maid's kids, or some other classmates that might be African, right? Yeah. You turn 11, 12, 13, 14, and this is a generalization, but you turn 11, 12, 13, 14, you start hearing some things, some classmates, some parents, friends, etc.
These people belong over there.
Yeah.
And that's just very common here in the States now.
Of course.
We've lived with this for hundreds of
forever,
years, right? Where it's like, hey, the help, if you will, was taking care of white children, had their own children, all the children played together. Then at a certain point, this social programming came in and said, nope, we don't. Jim Crow, blacks over here, whites over there, this one's better than this one, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it can't be that way, right? But that's not the truth. And so what we've learned just through our programming is that, kids that can learn to play together are kids that can learn to live together. So when we look at the program that we're doing in the regions where we're working, right, we call them conflict zones, right? But the conflict is not necessarily two warring parties. The conflict, like in South Africa, for example, the conflict for us is HIV and AIDS. I mean, that is killing people at an alarming rate. That is. And
how does basketball help?
Yeah, how can your program be effective there?
Yeah, so what we're coming in is 10, 11, 12-year-old kids we're working with, right? And now not me, not Brian Lemick, an American, right? Our program is a South African NGO, right? Run by South Africans, receiving some assistance from the U.S., but that's a program out of South Africa, and they employ South Africans. They have people from the communities where we're working. So if you think about the township of Mlazi, right? So Mlazi is a township. Townships, just so you know, are effectively where Africans were put during apartheid to live. It's
the hood.
It's the hood. It's as bad as it gets, right? So we're working in those communities, and we're hiring kids that grew up in those areas. So we're hiring a Menzi Zungu, who's 22-year-old South African who lives in youth section of Umlazi, is coaching a team of kids from Quantasani school, right? And so he's got 24 kids on his team, girls and boys. They know Menzi. They see him in the community,
and they understand each other, and they can communicate
they speak
well.
the same language.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
But they know that Menzi's not doing drugs. Menzi's not having sex with a ton of women. Menzi is not HIV/AIDS infected. Menzi's a mentor. Now, a lot of these kids don't have that. They're raised by their grandmothers. This should sound familiar. They're raised by their grandmothers, right? Their parents died of AIDS, or their parents were murdered, or some other awful thing, right? Grandma's got, mama has got 12 kids, 14 kids that she's watching after. Can't possibly keep an eye on everybody. So these are young adult mentors for these kids. So they're teaching them their lessons young, and they're saying, if you want to live well, if you want to have an impact on your society, you want to be a good member of society, this is how I'm doing it. And they're creating this role model relationship, and they're following that example.
So, obviously everything you're saying sounds exactly like neighborhoods here in the United States, but you guys are operating on an international level. At what point does your organization get on the ground here in the United States? And are there programs like this that already exist?
Yeah,
like yours?
there are. I mean, look, this is this is an idea that is incredibly effective, and we are not the only ones doing it. There's some great organizations, but there's not a ton of representation in the U.S. necessarily, like the way that we do it. But there, I mean, just think about your Boys and Girls Club. You think about Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and stuff like that. Yeah, but like there's the relationship is it's what's the vehicle and what can the vehicle be to bring this positive role model, this positive influence, these good ideas to these young kids, right? So it can be just about anything. We found in our experience, which was organic, that basketball was a vehicle that worked for us.
And when you talk about young kids, you're talking about keeping them out of trouble. Correct. Right. In some cases for your organization, just them being able to relate to people that they don't know and
Correct.
Culturally may not understand.
Meet people that they'd never meet. So if you think about, in Israel, right, you will not have a Palestinian and an Israeli getting together in this way. It just doesn't work that way.
Just to play a game of basketball.
It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. There is no opportunity for that really to happen. So when we bring kids in from East to West Jerusalem and they're playing hoops together, they come in the room and there is tension, man. You can feel it, right? And you can see it. And the kids will be, there's an Israeli group and there's a Palestinian group. And basically the first thing we do is, all right, let's mix it up. So you got a team now called the red team, is half Israeli, half Palestinian. You got the blue team, half Israeli,
and they
half
got to
Palestinian.
play together.
And they're playing together, man. And they don't care. And they're just saying, look, I want to beat the red team. I want to beat the blue team, right? At first they're not passing. At first the language isn't clear. But out there, just about everybody's speaking Hebrew. So the kids start communicating in Hebrew. The kids are playing, passing. The kids are high-fiving. And the kids are trying to beat the other team. And they just put all that stuff to the side. And they look. And then through that, they start to look, all right, this guy wants to win. I want to win, right? We kind of, that's like an icebreaker for us. And then we introduce some of our curriculum, which is like, it's not just the peace building, conflict resolution. It's simple stuff like, all right, let's talk. All right, Rosenberg, you grew up in D.C. I grew up in Rhode Island, right? I got a sister, you got a sister, whatever. My parents do this, my parents do that. Yeah. I like steak, I don't like math. Whatever the case is, you start thinking, I got a big brother, he drives me crazy. Mine does too. You start to look and say, we're not that different, right? You might look a little different, your language is different, your holidays are different than mine, right? Our parents don't like each other. The news says awful things about each side, but I'm standing right in front of you, man. And
everything's fine. Right.
You seem okay, And so that's the message that we deliver. And imagine that now in the 4 other countries where we're working, but we do more than just in these communities. So, we have an idea. I mean, we are doing things that is changing the world. I mean, we are changing the world. We're doing it in a grassroots effort because that's all we can do right now.
So when the kids, how long can they be in your pro? Like what age? What are the ages?
So, the kids in Israel are starting at 6.
Wow.
Right? The kids in South Africa are starting at 8, 9. It's all, I'd say, between 6 and 8 years old.
And you stay with these kids?
All the way through as long as we can keep them involved. So we just did this amazing exchange with the U.S. State Department where 30 Israelis and Palestinians came over from Israel to New York, right? Played hoops at the White House with Susan Rice, right? National Security Advisor, right? Pretty amazing, right? They toured. They went to the U.S. State Department. They met with USAID, Council on Foreign Relations. They did all this amazing stuff.
Susan Rice looks like she could hoop. Nah,
she's good.
She looks like she looks like she could have played point in like UConn or something.
She played in high school. She played in high school.
UConn,
right?
Relax.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
She looks like the number 1 program in the country.
I'm just saying, Susan Rice. She has that ponytail sometimes.
Yeah,
she looks like she's on some basketball shorts.
But she was decked out, and she was playing hard.
What was her thing, Susan Rice?
She was fouling.
She's a fouler.
No,
she fouls. She looks like she might foul a little bit.
No, but I mean, these kids came over, right? And the kids, the average age in the program was like 7 years. So they're coming over, and you can't tell the difference. I'm sorry, I can't tell the difference. You're sitting there with kids, yeah. I mean, the kids are just they're just talking, and they're having fun, and they're on their iPhones.
So do you have kids that are now 14, been in the program for years, and are now friends? They've been friends for years.
Years. So imagine this scenario, right? This summer, bombs are coming over, right?
It was a bad summer.
It was as bad as it gets, man. It was as bad as it gets. So Tut Imbar, who's a 14-year-old Israeli, right? Great family, affluent family, parents are successful, goes to a great school, all that stuff, right? Sirens go off. Tut basically grabs sister, mom, dad, they all go into their bomb shelter. So now most of the homes there have bomb shelters in the homes, expecting this kind of thing. Yeah. So they go down the bomb shelter. Now the rule is the alarms blare, you got to stay in that for 10 minutes. No compromise, nothing. You got to stay in for 10 minutes. In her first 3 minutes in there, parents are trying to get situated. Okay, what are we going to do? This, that, and the other thing. She gets a text message from a Palestinian friend who's on the other side. Tut, hope you and your family are okay. She's in her bomb shelter, Toot's in hers. I mean, that's some powerful stuff.
That is.
I mean, that is some serious stuff, and that's what we're doing. You know, now what I want to see happen and what we want to see happen is we've got conflict here in the U.S., right? We've got a lot of conflict here in the U.S. Turn on the news, you can't miss it.
Chicago's crazy.
Chicago's hectic, and so we've worked in
crazy.
Chicago. So we've got our core program that I mentioned, but we want to be operating in the United States. This is where we're from. Our founders are from D.C. I'm from Rhode Island. We've got guys from San Francisco, guys from Chicago. We want to bring these programs
what's preventing
home.
you from?
You know, we're making strides. So we've done some work in Portland. We've done some work in Chicago, D.C., et cetera. We worked in New Orleans right after Katrina. We set things up there. We had some great partners on the ground, and we did some work there. But it's you know, we want a long lasting. We can't just come in for a year or 2 years. That's not how we work.
Yeah, no.
I mean, you got to be sustainable. So we're trying to come in and be somewhere long. We need a long-term partner.
And a lot of what happens in the United States, when you think about conflict, there's several things, but the first thing that came to my mind is economics, right? Class.
Of course.
Class issues, right? Where, you know, a lot of our issues between even when you talk about race, right, nowadays, yes, there's some areas where the race issue is very real, right? But you also look around, a lot of it is class based. Yeah, man. It's based in income, based in, you know, what part of town you live in, you know, neighborhoods and things like that. Are you guys prepared to address those things if your program?
Hey, you know, call us, man. We can be there. You know,
What a cool idea that when you think about that, getting people from, you know, like what you guys were just saying about how when kids hit that age where they start learning, like, no, you shouldn't be friends with people like that, how powerful that would be for people to have the opportunity to really hang out with people from different areas. And like, I remember I volunteered at a camp in D.C. a few years ago, and it was a really rough area. And I remember thinking about how far away where I was from must be to these. I was like, they couldn't even fathom the life that I lived, and it was 20 minutes away.
Here in Anacostia or something.
Here in New York City, kids in Brooklyn, kids in Newark, New Jersey. Yeah. How far away are they from each other? 15 miles, 10 miles? It's not even that far, right? But they think it's completely different. Now, for people like us, because of what we do, we can move around, go neighborhood to neighborhood. We can see the similarities economically in a kid from Newark and a kid from Brooklyn and a kid from here, a kid from there. Program like this, getting kids from just different walks of life to come and participate together in something that...
We're getting to see like a kid from the hood in Brooklyn or Newark to get to hang out on the Upper West Side and see what it's like. There are kids playing basketball up there too. And their life is totally different.
And the kids in the Upper West Side, I suspect, want to hang out with the kids from Brooklyn.
Yes.
Just like, you know,
kids
just
from
like,
Brooklyn are cooler. They always are.
But that's what we see too. I mean, the white kids in South Africa wanted to hang with the Africans. They were curious. They were nervous, but they were curious. And the Africans just were like blown away. They go to the suburbs. They go to the, you know, they're
just wide-eyed.
They're just they can't believe it. So a funny story. So back when I lived in South Africa for 2 years, right? And I was involved in the program out there. So we do the citywide tournament twice a year. Back then there was about 2,200 kids.
Is this in Joburg?
Actually this is in Durban.
Durban, really?
Yeah. So we started in Durban. So we're in Durban. We got 2,200 kids. We got kids from Umabulu, Mwangi, like way out rural areas. We got kids from the townships. We got kids from the suburbs. We got kids from the city center.
And you guys help them transportation.
Oh man, yeah, we had
like
65 buses or something like that. Or out there, it's not even buses; it's taxis. Taxis are like minivans. You can fit like 15 kids in it. It's totally illegal. It's totally unsafe. But so these kids are all coming in. They're coming in from the rural areas. Now we basically hired out this enormous parking lot. We had like 50 courts on it. The kids got off the bus to play basketball. They looked, and the ocean was about maybe 8-minute walk. These kids got off their minibuses, looked at the courts, looked at the ocean, and it was like a mad dash. The kids just took off to go swimming. Like, these kids had never been to the ocean.
Wow.
These kids live on the...
And Durban is a place for ocean.
Durban is
huge
a vacation
beach
spot. It's beautiful. It's like
but they live so far out in the rural area they hadn't even seen.
It's like 40 kilometers, you know, but they've never been.
Let me tell you something about the Indian food in Durban.
It's amazing.
Delish.
Next level.
Bunny chow.
Woo-hoo. That's my favorite. I was in South Africa last year, and Durban, I was only there for a couple of days, but it was one of my favorite experiences.
What were you there for?
My honeymoon. And we went to Cape Town for a week, and then we went to Safari at the end, and in between we went to Durban. Beautiful. And we went to Durban. I have to say, Durban was the only place. I really didn't love food in Cape Town. Yeah. The food in Durban, because Durban is a heavy Indian population, like 40% or something.
It's amazing.
It's a huge Indian population.
There's more Indians in South Africa than there are white people. which blows your mind when you think about it.
And by the way, it also makes for some incredibly beautiful people because you're talking about Africans and Indians all mixed together. It's
Talking about talk.
And then the food,
but
slapping.
So South Africa is great. So there's really like, there's whites, right? English whites and Afrikaners. There's Africans, right? So 1 million different tribes. There's Indians, and then there's this beautiful group of people that are called. It's a non-derogatory term called colored.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar.
Right.
It sounds crazy every time I hear it. I'm like, you're what?
Yeah, but get your American ass out of there and think international, bruh.
Come on, colored.
That's the word, man.
I don't know, man.
They have a different.
Because I would be colored, and you're not calling me that.
Yeah.
Look, you're in America, man. Let go. You're not here in America anymore. You're in another country, man. Let go. It's different.
But beautiful people. Durban's a hectic place, though.
I'm sure it is.
You went to the city
I know.
center,
I
so,
didn't.
Yeah.
I was by the beach.
Schlager Rocks and all that.
I mean,
area,
don't get me wrong. I saw the propensity for hecticness,
Yeah,
but I wasn't around it.
Yeah. The big problem down there too is street children, right? So there's a lot of homeless kids. Again, not there's the go-go's and the grandmas can't take care of everybody. So some of those kids just go homeless, and they're 8, 9, 10 years old, and they're HIV infected, and they're prostitutes. So a good friend of mine, Billy Raftery, created this film, and he did it with Charlize Theron, and she actually narrated it, and it's called Children Rise, or it's called Angels in Exile, and it's all about street kids in Durban and on the beach in Durban. It's amazing.
Well, dope, man. I love your program. How can people get involved in your program?
You got to check. So there's a few things, right? So I'll just drop a website real quick. PeacePlayersINTL.org. www.peaceplayerSINTL.org, right? Get on there, find us, find me, Brian Lemick, and reach out, because we want to come to your community. We want to work with you.
So if you have a lot of kids that need a program like this where you live, anywhere, they can go to this website.
Yep.
They can find you.
Yep.
Say, hey, we need your program here.
Yep.
And what is there, like they have to fill out a form? What's the
No,
process?
we just got to talk, right? So it's more complicated than that, right? So we got to get a better understanding of what is the issue there. How can we afford this, man? Because we're an NGO, we're a nonprofit. We don't make anything. We survive on charitable contributions. It's the State Department, it's USAID, it's Lawyers Sport for Good Foundation, it's Adidas, it's our board. I mean, it's the 900 people that get to us a year. I mean, that's how we do what we do. We're not making a lot of money. We're not bringing in a lot of money.
It's not about that.
It's not about that. I mean, this is currency, man. Being here right now is currency. Yeah. I'm flying out Ireland on Friday. That's currency for me. I mean, that is something that is really powerful and important, and so yeah, if you want to be, if you need us, you think we could be helpful, call us, reach out, because then we can talk about a plan and see how, because we got a lot of stuff working right now. It might very well could be, you're in Chicago, we might be able to figure something out, if you're in New York, shoot, let's work together. I mean, we were talking about doing something in Brownsville, about 3 months ago. I had a call last week with someone from New York Public Schools. I mean, we're trying to do this, but just as we're having these calls, I'm having calls with South Sudan and Saudi Arabia. I mean, we've got something here that is so powerful, right? And it's easy. It's basketball.
Now then, I guess, and as we wrap, what is? Tell me the website one more time.
PeacePlayersINTL.org.
At the point where a kid now has been in your program, let's say kid's been with you for 6 years.
Yeah.
How frequently are they participating?
About 250 hours a year.
250 hours a year.
So think about that. It's basically like 5 hours a week.
5 hours a week. Playing basketball, meeting kids from other, creating friends, creating relationships.
Yeah, developing leaders.
Lifetime.
I mean, we're developing young leaders, right? So when I was talking to Rosenberg over email, and I just said, like, we've got the next Prime Minister of Israel in our program right now. The person that is going to change things, right? Mm-hmm. We've got the people in South Africa that are going to change things. We've got kids, we don't even know what they're going to do yet, right? But these are young leaders. These are empowered people. These are Zulus, right, who live in a township, who are now traveling all over the world with our program, who are getting college educated, who are looking at where they came from and how they can make a change. Right. We got a Palestinian in our program, right? This kid grew up in the worst neighborhood you can grow up. This kid is going to university. He's been in our program for 11 years. He's going to university. What's he studying? Occupational therapy. Because he volunteered through a PeacePlayers thing. He volunteered with disabled adults. And he said, oh, my God, in Israel, there is nothing for disabled adults. There's just not enough. So he wants to occupational therapy, and he wants to, when he graduates, start his own nonprofit to work with, handicapped and disabled adults. I mean, that's powerful stuff. He doesn't want to do basketball. He says, okay, I get it. I know how that works. And I'm taking what I've learned there. I'm going to apply it to something that I care about. That is happening all over the world. And the bigger our net, the bigger our reach, the more we can do.
PeacePlayers International. The website is PeacePlayersINTL.org.
Yep.
Reach out to them if you have a need for this type of program. Hell, if you want to make a donation to this type of program.
Let's do it.
They're looking for people, and look, we have a lot going on here in America that we need to address. So something like this could help us out a lot.
And one more thing. So Cypher on Thursday. Cypher's going to be there. Wyatt Cenac and a whole bunch of other comedians at the Stand on 3rd Avenue.
Yes.
Right? So Stand's a great club. We got a whole bunch of people coming, but we need some more. Can learn a little bit about the program and laugh. These
so
guys
it's
are
comedy
amazing.
hosted by Syfe.
Hosted by Syfe, and Robbie Slowick is another comedian, amazing guy.
So there'll be a comedy event Thursday night.
Thursday night at the Stand, 8 p.m.
All right, and the Stand is where, in the 20s?
Yeah, it's in the 20s. So basically, like Murray Hill area, right?
Yeah,
3rd Ave.
So yeah, that's dope. All right, so head out to the Stand and support that too, and see Wyatt Cenac and Syfe. That's dope.
Dope, man.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you guys. This is good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you.